Hey guys, this episode of the Ride Life podcast is brought to you by NightOwlRides.com. If you want premium motorcycle content, go follow his YouTube page at Night Owl Rides, his Instagram at Night Owl Rides, and head over to NightOwlRides.com and get yourself some premium merch, t-shirts, shirts, hats, all kinds of goodies on there. Check them out, NightOwlRides.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Ride Life podcast. I'm your host, Brian, up in the snowy country of New Hampshire. Now we're getting some snow tonight, Jim. What's happening down there in Rhode Island?
Right now, we're getting a lot of rain. It is pouring, but we're getting some snow later on. So whatever we're getting, you're just getting the colder version of it.
Yeah, well, you're that far south of me, so that's usually the case. But I'm excited. I get to tomorrow when I wake up. I was supposed to go to Wisconsin tomorrow morning up to Milwaukee, but that's getting delayed a day. So I'll get to wake up, jump on my tractor, do some plowing, and then hopefully jump on the snowmobile, rip around on the snowmobile for a little bit.
Yeah, you getting real snow? You getting like 10 plus, right?
Yeah, I don't know. They're 6 to 8. I mean, which is a
6
weird.
to 8.
So who knows what we're gonna get? I just took the dogs for a walk. We got about maybe an inch and a half already so far, so it's coming down pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
But what do we got in store for us tonight, Jim? We got a good guest. We got a family from Texas. I'm not from Texas, from Tennessee.
I mean, it's in the name, Tennessee Tailors, but whatever.
Right? So there's going to be some FXR talk tonight, I hope. We got Mr. and Mrs. Taylor from Tennessee coming on with us in a little bit. They should be here very shortly. So we're going to find out their story, going to find out what's in their garage, what's going on at Dream Rides, and everything going on in Tennessee. So we're going to hopefully have a good episode for you guys tonight.
Yeah, and they got a cool story how they met. She comes from a bike family. I think he has a shop. If I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a few different accounts and things like that. So I was trying to put the pieces together, but they'll finish the map for us, and a cool story how they met. So I'm looking forward to getting to know those guys and seeing what they're up to. Big FXR fans.
Yeah, FXR. That's what drove me over there. It's the FXRs, because you know me, Jim. I love to talk FXRs, and you're off the hook tonight.
I'm off the hook. I can just about just chill out, drink my beer. I got 4 Bud Lights here, so if I have to, I'll get up.
I'm saying for the Does Jim Know episode. Segment. So I got some good questions. We're gonna have to save those for next week, though.
That's all right. So yeah.
What else? So yeah, I'm going to Milwaukee, going to Wisconsin for a couple days. Check out the museum. We got a couple of other HD dealerships we're gonna hit in between. So it's just, it'll be fun. It's going to get real cold here next week, I hear. So I'm going from cold weather to probably not so cold weather. Not warm, but not as cold.
Yeah, we're looking at teens here, so I figure you got to be in the single digits up there.
Yeah, they're saying when I leave Tuesday morning, it's going to feel like 10 below with the wind chill.
Oof.
You want to hear something funny?
Looking forward to working.
Whenever they used to say wind chill, I always used to think they were saying windshield, the windshield temperature, because the wind's hitting the windshield. And I think it was only a couple of years ago I figured out what they were really saying.
Nice. So we got our guest. Our guest is ready to come in. So let's
bring on. Let's bring on the Taylors.
People waiting. Here we go. Oh, right from the garage. What's up, guys? Can you hear us?
Only problem is, can you hear us?
Is the audio okay?
Yeah, you're good. You can be like maybe a hair closer, but you're good.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I was like, move up.
Yeah. We're
like right on top of the.
We're huddled next to the wood stove.
I hear. Nice. I'm right next to my pellet stove.
Yeah.
How cold is it down there?
We're hitting the 20s right now.
Oh, so you guys are getting it for real.
Yeah. It's coming down. The snow's starting to fall again, but it's not bad.
I don't want to hear that.
Same here. I like that view you got. reminds me of when Jesse, you were on the Get Bent Moto episode.
Yeah, it's the same. Our same environment here, freezing in the garage.
Yep.
That day that we did that, they got here pretty early in the morning, and we did the interview last. So I was out riding in the cold all day and standing around and taking photos. And then by the time we did the interview, I was just like, I was surprised I could talk.
Well, you didn't show it in the interview. You looked like you were cool, calm, and collected.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. So you guys have a cool story how you met, and you come from bike families, right? I mean, but you started riding. You specifically started riding a little bit later in life, right? You want to share that story with the people? How you kind of met? I read it on your Instagram, so
Yeah. So life's crazy. And I came from a riding family, so my mom used to actually road race back in the 90s when I was a kid. So I spent days at the track with her, road racing on the back of her CBR. That's where I fell in love with bikes. And from there, I kind of held off on getting my endorsed until I was out of college, because I was like, man, I already drive crazy. I don't need to get in trouble on a bike. So I got endorsed actually 2010, so 14 years ago now. And bought a bike with my ex-husband. Thought it'd be a way to like enjoy time with him, but it just wasn't the thing. And I actually had to sign that bike over to him in divorce, which was a big bummer. And then this guy came along a little bit later. I finally was like, man, I'm gonna get on this Tinder app and see what's going on. Yeah, that was interesting.
It's funny because I didn't get endorsed until like 2012 was when I bought my first Dyna first bike right before I got out of the Marine Corps. So that's where it kind of started for me.
So this guy hits me up on Tinder because he sees a photo of me with the old Suzuki, and he's like, "Hey, like you ride? What's up?" We should go sometime.
That's perfect.
Needless to say, I invited him over for a bonfire one night. He showed up with a bottle of wine, and that was that.
Bottle of wine, smooth.
Those are the kind of stories I like to hear. So, what was the bike that you had to give up to the ex-husband, though? Was that anything?
It was just a little Suzuki 650, just a little learner bike for me. But yeah, I enjoyed riding far more than he did. And it kind of drove a wedge between us, which kind of sucked, but also showed that wasn't the relationship for me. So
exactly,
on bigger and better things.
Time to move on. Nice. I get it.
Sometimes you have to do it.
The part of like our beginning of our relationship too was her mom road raced and then worked at a shop as a parts gal at the counter, and for a family friend at Uncle Rod. So he owned a Triumph dealer for a while. But while I was going to community college and met her, she got the introduction and I started working for him. So I worked with him, and then the ex-husband actually brought in like this, I don't know, 90s chopper type of thing. And I ended up working on his bike. So I was like, this is a weird scenario of like being tied into a family a little late in the game, but you just suck it up. And it was like, I'm not going to like sabotage this thing for the guy.
Yeah.
Well, you probably should have just left him. You should have left him a thank you note. Honestly.
Yeah.
Thanks for screwing up.
Yeah.
Thanks for screwing up. I'm really happy now.
Where I was like, I don't even want to test ride this thing.
He sent me photos the first day. He's like, man, this thing came in. You'll never guess who brought it. And I was just like, yeah.
So it was old gas, like I remember trying to yank the fuel line off the carburetor, and I got like just the spritz of the green gas in my face, and you could taste it. I was like, this motherfucker.
Still to this day with the bikes we rode. I remember when he pulled the tank off my FXR last winter about this time.
Oh, that one was bad.
Oh, Lord. He even dumped it sort of off in the brush behind the shop, and we could smell it in the driveway for weeks to come. I was like, this is a bad idea. No more bad gas.
I don't know if we can environmentally say that on.
It is what it is.
That's I've done worse in the backwoods of New Hampshire.
Yeah, you got to cover that.
It's East Tennessee. That's not the worst thing we've seen.
So the interesting thing about the garages too, we found out the neighbor was the old owner's cousin. They're like, oh yeah, his cousin lived in this house, and actually maintained the buses for the school system here. So this was like a working shop for him too. And we're like,
Oh, right on.
glad to
It's
keep
got
that up. But we got junk in
all
the
the numbers to the local parts stores handwritten on the inside of the door.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
little cheat codes for the local numbers.
So once you were introduced to Jesse, what was the first bike you got when you were with him? Did you get right into FXRs?
Not immediately.
No. So I told him, we were joking around. He's like, oh, I really want to work on Harleys at the dealership, yada, yada. I'm going to get you riding a Harley one day. And I was like, no, dude, you'll never get me on. I grew up on sport bikes. I'm comfortable on sport bikes. And actually, our first Christmas together, he brought home just a little 90s Sportster. And I was like, all right.
It was a 03, I think. 03, 883, 03 or 04. But I got it at the dealership for, like a couple grand basically. So it was pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And then brought that home.
Yeah, ran through that. It wasn't quite my style, not my setup.
The bars were a little tall and stuff. Yeah.
A little T-bar that just didn't do it for me. But about a year later, he hits me up one day. He's like, man, I've got the bike for you at the dealership. Because at this point, he's working at the Willamette Valley Harley. And he's back in maintenance, were you in service?
I don't know. At that dealer, I did I started off as sales, parts, and service. So I just kind of went through the whole thing there.
But yeah, he calls me up and he's like, we got this Sportster, and they'd kept it under wraps, but some 18-year-old kid had taken this Sporty out for a test ride, dumped it over on the test ride, and they told the guys in the back, they're like, have some fun with it and just re-outfit the thing. And he's like, I got the bike for you. You got to come and see it. And sure enough, I walk in. I was like, oh, man.
At that time, it's a 2017 Sportster. It's still back behind us. But Harley came out with clip-on handlebars and rear set foot controls with a whole little cafe kit. So from her coming off the Suzuki, it was kind of a decent transition where she was just kind of hooked. And then they added all the parts to it. And because it was never titled, it was never an accident or totaled or anything, So they had it listed as the original sales price, and they didn't reflect the $3,000 in parts they just put on it. So they just wrote the deal up for her at the base price.
I walked in, I was like, I'll take it. I got a payment. You wrote it up then and there, and I was like, all right, I just made out with a customized little iron for a pretty good deal, and she took me quite a ways. Put about 12,000 miles on that one by myself. In between having a couple of this guy's kids, so that's a pretty big feat for me. Staying on the bike while pregnant and having babies, but once we got out here, I was still puttering around on the 883, and then just watching him ride the FXRs, I was like, no, there's something to these things. I'll follow him on rides, and I'd be like, yeah, they
She's like, how do you take that corner so fast? I'm like, I'm not. It just goes.
Just the bike.
And I made fun of him, like, yeah, what's the deal with these FXRs? What is it?
There's an obsession.
There is.
It is.
And I held off for a long time on it. But he brings home this barn find. Trade for labor.
Yeah, so working at Dream Rides has been pretty cool, and that's what brought us out to Tennessee was John opening up this shop. And I'd kept in touch with him, over a few years of Instagram, Facebook, and then met him a handful of times. And he just, was like, hey, if you can make it out here, you've got a spot. So that was a big motivation for us to be able to buy a house and make this type of transition. So, but with John's shop, there's all kinds of opportunities, tighter with the community of motorcycling, here talking with you guys now. So, there was a guy that wanted a bunch of work done. He was an employee, a former employee at Dream Rides. He had some other college stuff going on. So, but he had a 2015 Road Glide. He wanted a turbo and do a bunch of work too. And John was like, look, I don't want to charge you a bunch of labor. So he just kind of farmed it off to me. And he's like, hey, this guy wants to trade an FXR for all this labor. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm into that. And as I go to get the bike, she's like, oh, is this do I finally get one?
Are you going to build me a bike?
I was like,
he's built out a dozen or more in our relationship. Yeah. I'm like, am I finally going to get to test this out? Because he brings home a lowrider. I was like, his stance on the bikes is always a little too tall for me. I'm a little short, 5'3",
Yep.
stumpy legged little lady. And but I was like, I sat on this thing and I was like, it's low enough. We can keep the shocks down, keep the suspension on it. And
those stock bars on the FXLRs are kind of like cool. They're just, I have them on mine too. I ended up, hers is a 93. So last summer, I took an opportunity to pick up another 1993. So that way we have kind of like matching bikes.
Yeah. Is that the black one that you have now?
What's that?
Is that the black FXR you have now? Is that your
yeah.
Okay, yeah, right on.
Yeah. Yeah, so I put the same Sportster bags on there. Yep. So we have different fairings and a few different like flip-flop parts, like on my bike it might be chrome, hers it's black. Just do like some alternating like that.
Yeah,
right. The big thing with him is I told him, I was like, I know you're going to do what you want with it, but I just needed to suit, my comfortable stance and whatnot. I did a pretty good job. I didn't want too many upgrades. Wanted to keep it pretty original. Yep, and took her for a spin last March and was immediate like, I was blown away. Just handling in the corners, everything. You're like, yeah, this bike just wants to go.
Yeah, like now I know what they're all talking about. I get this FXR thing, right?
I freaking get it. And there was just no turning back from that point.
No.
That was like my first bike was it was a 98 Evo Dyna, and I had that in Hawaii and then in Oregon, and a few years later I crashed it, and after a while I saved up some money and I bought my first FXR, kind of the bandwagon thing of like, hey, I've heard a lot about these, like what's up with it? And the first ride, I was like, oh, these are great. Like, yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, but
the way things turn on a dime, that little Evo motor just gets up and goes just enough. You don't get too crazy.
Just enough, right? Yeah. So John's a great guy. Your boss, John. I met him a couple years back in Laconia at the FXR show.
Nice.
When that was the year he rode his the Shovelhead FXR.
Oh
yeah.
Yep. So it was cool to meet him in person.
Him and Janine talk about that's her favorite ride to go up there.
It is. I mean, I take for granted because I live in New Hampshire, so the roads are great. Their price very similar to Tennessee.
Right.
Like I always say, I went out to Arizona Bike Week last year, and I was thinking I'm going to see these great roads, and they're not really as good as New Hampshire. So I kind of take it for granted what I got in my backyard.
Yeah. John,
that's how I feel about Tennessee.
John was cool, and he sent another coworker and I out to Phoenix for like a drag specialties dinner party type of weekend. Yeah, one of the drag shows out there, and like you feel like you're riding through a painting. Like you're like looking out of the side, you see the sunset, and there's
the colors
like
of
landscape, the cactus and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Phoenix it's a different animal from New Hampshire. There's no trees. You got to ride far, but once you get into those canyons, you feel like you're in the Grand Canyon, which you're not. But
yeah, so once you get out of Phoenix, like out of the city and cruise, because I went to a lot of the Harley training in Phoenix from the dealer, but I never got to ride out there until that one opportunity.
Yeah, right on.
That's one spot I'm bummed I missed on our cross country trek this summer. Me and 4 ladies went for that ride. We were gonna hit Glacier National Park, Olympic, head down the California coast, and then cut back to Tennessee. But there was actually a blizzard in Glacier the day we were due to pass through, so we had to dip south. But I'm totally bummed we missed the southern desert.
Even for her trip, though, like I got that FXR on trade, and we didn't quite need to do a frame up because it had a lot of really nice parts on it. I was pleasantly surprised, because I pulled this thing out of a barn, sitting for like 3 years. It was just caked with dust, and it was pretty funky, as you've probably seen some of the pictures. But it's got a 99 Evo motor, a Delcron case, Baker 6 transmission, and a Rivera clutch, and stuff like that. But I just went through it and put it together, and I actually found a NOS 0 mile speedometer. So it was a brand new Speedo, and she's racked up over 10,000 miles in less than a year, on this FXR. So we've had a few, small issues and stuff, but we're able to identify it pretty quickly and just keep rolling.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
keep an Evo pretty stock. Don't do anything crazy.
Yeah,
It's gonna
Don't
last.
mess with
It's
it.
just a little maintenance. It's gonna last forever.
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're great for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's like even the first couple times I rode it some decent, 300-400 mile weekends and bring it home. I check the oil and be like, is it supposed to be this dark? Should I change the oil? He's like, no, just keep running it. You'll be fine.
Just keep going. Keep going.
All right, that's not my style, but you're the master, so okay.
Right.
So I'm learning, but yeah, we've had some fun mechanical issues.
Yeah, we had to change some suspension in the rear, stuff like that, just because it started to wobble, but I found one of the shocks was blown out. Just some, I used whatever I have on hand, so it's kind of like, okay, well, I found this at the swap meet. We'll see how it goes.
Let's run it.
Yeah,
Run it till it breaks. Yeah,
Right.
the worst one was when we went to oh gosh,
Atlanta. What?
Smokeout, and yeah, on the way back from Smokeout, stop at a gas station. The bike won't fire up, and turns out, yeah, my stator was blown.
The stator was so fried. I pulled it out, and the wires were so burnt they just broke off.
Oh, jeez.
It smelled so bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the fun thing is, luckily he's got the maintenance expertise himself, but just having ridden so long and been around bikes so long, like usually I can diagnose or at least give him the idea of like, here's exactly what's happening. Like, I feel this, I hear this, I see this.
Yep.
And then I bring it home and he's like, yep, nope.
Yeah, these ladies did, a 6,000 mile trip over a couple weeks, and I hardly even got a phone call.
So. Actually, it was for the sporty.
Yeah.
What was it? The Speedo.
Yeah, this Forester just popped a couple codes or something, but it wasn't.
No, FXR. I had a small oil leak out of the oil sensor, and that was about it. It was pretty steadfast. Yeah. I'm impressed.
I'm kind of like you. Like my FXR was blowing out oil out of the fifth ring, like the fifth gear. Yeah. It was blowing all of my rear tire. Like I could diagnose it.
Horrible.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm good at mocking up stuff, swapping bars, getting into the motor stuff. I haven't quite done it yet. I'm gonna do it eventually with my shovel head, but so I could diagnose the problem. I told my buddy, I said, "This is what it is. I'm pretty sure." And
yeah, we kind of narrowed it down to like this handful of issues.
Yeah, exactly. So
I found it kind of funny. I was watching a video earlier, but Jesse, you and Brian said the same thing about the FXRs. You're like, man, this thing rides really nice. The brakes kind of suck though.
Yeah.
He updated mine to a dual disc in the front. He was like, yeah we want to make this a little.
She still has like the single piston calipers on there, but through more of my parts hunting, like I got like a bunch of new stuff that had never been run. So like we had a Sportster Sport front end, which is a little soft for an FXR, but she's not like super aggressive and she's not heavy, so it's like the bike doesn't really notice too bad.
Nah, it still performs well.
But those calipers were brand new, like never even had fluid in them and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, at least it's a dual disc, even if it's single puck stuff.
Yeah.
So
they get the job
we'll see if we need to upgrade in the future, but
not 20 crazy stunts, not yet.
My FXR, I got PM calipers front and rear, single front disc, and it still doesn't stop great. I mean, I think maybe the master cylinder isn't for that PM caliper. I think it's still for the stock one piston, Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So just not enough compression.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that the rear brake that was on that R4, it's on her bike now, actually. So that's funny. That thing will lock up the rear. It was solid. So
yeah, that's what
it was finally like having an FXR where the brakes actually worked. You almost crashed because you hit.
Oh. What is this?
Me put the rear caliper on. He's like, man, you better take it easy on it. And I was like, I don't use the rears too much. I usually downshift instead of braking. But yeah, he was like, it'll lock up on you.
Yeah.
I haven't had any trouble yet.
Yeah, that's good. Because I just bought an 03 Dyna too, and those front brakes compared to my FXR brakes, stock master cylinder, stock caliper, and that thing stops way better than my FXR. It's like
wild.
But hey,
and I had a couple couple police dynos a few years ago too, and I put like some dual Nest 15-inch rotors on the front of one of them, and it was amazing. It was just like stock calipers, stock master cylinder, but with those big rotors, it was just effortless. You know, you just like barely.
Have you ever used one of those Brembo RC19 master cylinders?
I don't know. I mean, what did it come off of, or
I don't know. That it's just like some of the FXR guys, putting the Brembo master cylinder on. I don't know if it actually came off something or if it's just a aftermarket, master.
I've done a few like, aftermarket stuff at the shop, like doing the Behringer, this and that, things. So, I mean, I find that it works pretty well. So it just depends on, but I like, if I, at least the dual disc on FXR. And then if you go with a little bigger rotor, obviously it takes a lot of that energy.
Really, yeah. I know everybody. I should go to a dual disc on my FXR, but I like the look of the single disc. I don't know.
The single.
But,
well, I do like to be able to see the wheels.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I really like those chrome blades I'm running, but
yeah, I got all that stuff on trade. So I got I got her FXR on a labor trade, and then I had another rolling chassis Boyce frame, Pro Street FXR Boyce frame that I picked up at the swap meet as well, and it had all these new parts on it. That's where I got a bunch of the guts from. But I ended up trading a guy a NOS like 6-speed transmission that had never been run for her wheels and a tin set. And he brought me 500 cash. So he brought the parts to me, picked up the transmission, gave me cash and all these parts. I thought, that's a sweet deal. So she's still running all that stuff on her bike,
That's original paint on that list.
It was original paint. It's got some blemishes, but the whole concept with her bike was like everything is nice enough to put it together that it's a good bike.
Yeah.
So we got this cat screaming back here.
He wants some warm.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are both from Oregon. Is that right?
Yeah. So both born and bred in Oregon, and like I obviously went off to the military for a hot minute, but yeah, that's why moving out to Tennessee was quite the move for both of us.
Yeah, I was going to say
I've traveled too, but deciding to make that move with kids was interesting.
Yeah,
that's
cross country. Move. So how long have you guys been in Tennessee now?
4 years almost.
4 years, all right.
Coming up on 4.
Right on. You like it? So how far from Maryville are you?
No. 20 minutes.
Yeah, the shop is 20, 25 minutes.
Right.
Cruise down there pretty quickly.
Yeah, I feel like everybody was moving to Maryville, Tennessee for a while there.
Yeah, we had a few guys coming in. When it opened, and Dusty got here before I did, and Paul was there for a while. So, and then shut up, Kevin. But we also got some other friends that have come here recently. Like, I mean, I've had other people come into the shop and tell John, like, "Oh, I moved here because you guys are here."
Yeah.
And not that it was intentional, but another friend of mine, Clint Brown, he's a big FXR nerd as well, and he's right down the road from us, and the kids are riding dirt bikes together. So I just met him when he moved out here, but it was a good friendship from the start. And,
right
to connect the families.
Sure. Did you ever work at the Stockton location or no?
No. I always lived in Oregon, and John had talked about some openings and stuff in Stockton. And I was like, man, I can't really convince my wife to move from beautiful Oregon to Stockton to work just to work for this guy.
What was that video?
That was a hard sell. Tennessee was like, okay, maybe.
When did you first meet John FXR Jam? In person.
I first met John in person while I was working at the dealer. He came up to Oregon and bought an '83 shovel FXRT. That was like all original. It was a beautiful bike. So, and he just stopped by because the dealership was right on I-5, going through Oregon. So he was on the freeway and was like, "Oh, I know this guy works here. I'll just pop off and see if he's there," to show me the bike. And I got to meet him and his son Ryder.
Nice.
And I don't know. That was before our kids were born, I think, or close to. I don't know, 2016, 2017 in there, but the 2019 FXR jam, I rode down, and then on the way leaving the event, my drive belt snapped. And so through people and stuff, John was like, "Hey, just get it over to the shop, and we'll hook you up. We'll set it up." So Taylor, one of his guys, had done a chain drive and saved his belt. So they just gave me the belt, and then he knew I was a technician. So he just gave me a lift, and I had some tools, borrowed some tools, and Taylor and I did the belt swap real quick, and I was back on the road the next day.
Nice.
So that was, and I stayed the night at John's house, you know. So
Wow.
I mean, like, I was like, he gave me a place to stay, some coffee and stuff like that, and then a place to work, and I was like, all right, this guy's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then so it wasn't that big of a gamble going to work for him because I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Yeah,
Actually, I think
because
it was 2020.
I met him for that 5 minutes, and I just got that vibe from him. Like, he's just a good guy, you know. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was the only time I worked in the Stockton shop, was on my own bike.
for free, yeah, I get you.
I actually think it was 2020 because it was just a few months later.
No, well, 2020 I went back down, but that was on a different bike. I had the other black FXR.
But I thought, but either way, so come early 21, John reaches out again. And he's like, "Hey
Yeah.
man, we're moving and shaking, and we've got this property we just bought out in Tennessee." And him and I were kicking it around there for a hot minute. But when the COVID shutdown happened on the West Coast, I used to work for the Oregon Athletic Department, and we were sunk. You know, we weren't having events. We didn't know when we'd have football in person again. And I was like, I guess it's now or never to take this chance. You know, like
Yeah,
things are happening, and it's either you get on that train and you leave the station, or it leaves you behind. So
I think
we just
COVID
made
did that. COVID did that for a lot of people, myself
yeah.
included. I moved up to New Hampshire, up here, kind of retired from my job being a truck driver.
Oh
And
yeah.
now I'm up here and just living the life. But during that COVID, I was in Daytona when that all went down. It was like
Oh
the
man.
last weekend of Daytona. I remember they shut everything down, and the talk around Daytona was people were scared because like they had to drive back to their states. They were thinking they're going to stop you at every state, you know,
Oh my.
Yeah.
on the way. I'm like,
Show you
they can't do
papers.
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy time. So, but you guys got relocated to Tennessee. That's awesome. I like it. That's a good
Yeah,
story.
everything worked out. Everything went pretty smooth, but this guy was ahead of us out here for about 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, like, even going back to like the military was, every couple years you kind of pack up and move to a new unit, or so you kind of get a little bit used to these experiences of like seeking out opportunity like that. And with us, like, we were, pretty well rooted in Oregon, but it was also, um, once she gave me the green light, like, because we first presented the idea, and she's like, I don't know, like, it's pipe dream,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I brought it up like one more time, and she was like, well, if you're gonna go, like, now's the time. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I'm
I was
stuck at
pretty
home with the
nervous
kids
too.
anyways.
I
I was like,
Yeah.
I loaded all my tools up, and my box was in the back of the truck, and I had two FXRs on a trailer and another one torn apart in the back of the truck, crammed in with all the tools, and the whole cab and back seat were all filled with parts, and like I had like just my driving area, that was it. It was everything else was like FXR parts and tools.
Right on. I like
he
that.
even messaged me at one point. He's like, man, I don't even want to stop and get out of this truck because I don't want anybody to like steal anything off of it.
Yeah, I had it all chained together and locked and stuff. But no, I had a good trip. I didn't have any problems. I took my time getting here and went an out of the way kind of path to see a few friends and popped through Texas to see my dad.
There you go. That's the best way to do road trips, right? As long as you're not in a hurry to get there, you don't feel like you get to see things, you know.
Yeah. Oh, John and the other guys were like, "Where the fuck you at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Louisiana or I'm in Texas," and they're like, "Where? You're supposed to be in Tennessee, bro."
Oh man, yeah. Dusty had half the trip we had to commute.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys have planned for 2025? You going to events? You guys? What are you thinking?
The very first thing we have coming up, next weekend for Dream Rides is Louisville, the drag specialties MVP. So they go through the convention center in Louisville, and just everybody in the industry is kind of there, for a lot of vendors, and get to see some friends and cool people and check out some new parks and kind of enjoy the being out of town for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't think they've sat down and made the schedule for Dream Rides this year, but looking forward to more drag races and all the events that we put on, that the shop puts on. And really, my goal for the year was to actually try and hit all the FXR jams, get the Triple Crown, and we'll see if that can happen.
That's high hopes. Yeah.
High hopes.
So yeah, I mean, like here in this shop, this is my garage. So the tailor-made custom cycles idea is just doing a few projects here and there. A lot of frame up stuff. So we've got the FXRT back there for Jeff Holt, and then I've got this other FXR here for Brian Habman. He came out from Cali and brought me a bunch of stuff to put together, and so I have a few like complex projects here, and then tinkering with my own stuff. So I've got to buckle down and get some things done for 2025. So
you got to put your name in the hat for the FXR tour. You'd be a perfect candidate.
Yeah, I've wanted to, like I had this other voice frame that I was talking about doing, but I'm working a deal out on getting my Softail painted and stuff like that. So
yeah, too many projects.
Yeah,
this guy likes to get too many projects going, and then he's got to sort of whittle it away.
I need to, yeah.
So I think the voice frame might be on the out and out, but we've got some other fun stuff shaking out in the shop.
So so one cool thing, like even with working for John, I don't know if it's quite public yet, but while we work for him, he's making a bike payment for us. So I financed an M8 Softail in my name, but he buys it. He pays for it.
It's like having a company car.
Yeah. So it's his incentive to keep us, around, which isn't hard to do anyway for me. But but I was like, okay, you're gonna buy me a bike, all right.
So what do you got?
What do you got for an M8? To keep these guys in the game, because most people working.
So what do you got for an M8? What you got? What Softail?
Okay, so I have a 2020 Lowrider S, and through other trade deals and different stuff, I have Jeff Holt hooked me up with the Advan Black ST fairing, and I got some Dominator lowers and stuff like that. I just kind of like rolled around different ideas, but I threw some FX DPs, some Dyna Defender bags on it.
All right.
And now I've got a police tour pack and some other stuff. So I'm going like kind of like a full cop mode on it, but I want to do like Super Troopers Highway Patrol and not the usual police bike,
Yeah.
So,
have you seen any of those new Saddlemen mini fairings up close and personal?
Yeah.
What do you think of those?
Yeah, so they're pretty neat. We had one on a guy's bike over a year ago. Dalton, unfortunately, he was in a pretty tough accident, and he pulled through, but the bike, but that bike, he won a couple different awards and stuff for it. But we had the ST fairing on it with some lower, or not the ST, but the Saddleman fairing on it with some lowers and stuff. And I'm actually getting ready to put one on an FXR for Gabe Garifano in the coming weeks, months.
That'll be an interesting look.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's got like a 90s lowrider, and we're going to get it paint matched and stuff. So.
Yeah. And I thought about putting one on my bike. Mine's an FXRS lowrider. So when I first bought it, someone tried to make it a police bike. They had the RP struts on it and floorboards and stuff, but I put it all back to FXRS stuff. So I wish it still had original paint, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for original paint, and that's one thing that drew me to my black lowrider was it was just it's really clean paint, fortunately, and everything else I know I can do. I don't paint.
That's my thinking too. If I get a good, nice, clean OG tin set, I can make it cool around it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Listen, Brian, don't sell yourself short. Brian does a hell of a job with some Rust-Oleum.
Wait. I mean,
Like
we all can, right?
like
You know,
really good, like really good. Like you would think it was a professional paint job.
Yeah, you got to layer the base like metal flake. And then...
Yeah. Well, it's all in the clear coat, so I use the cheap ass Rust-Oleum paint, and then the 2K clear. So it's a 2-part clear that comes in a spray can. So you got to puncture it, put the hardener in it, shake it up really well, and you use that and then wet sand and buff and make it look good.
Yeah, so there's the other step too. If you're like, if you're buffing it, like...
Yeah. See, I detailed cars for a long time, so wet sand and buff, I could do that.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
But you still got the FXR4, the other one?
No, I sold that to John.
Okay.
And John like took us all on a cruise and some other stuff, and our son had a surgery, pretty minor, just getting his tonsils and stuff removed. But so I sold that to John, paid a few things off, and then he sold it to Adam Musa, who was doing the social media for the shop for a while.
Okay.
So he's still kind of around or whatever, but he lives not too far away, so the bike's still like local. And Adam had me do like a speed dealer swing arm on it recently, and a few little changes to try to kind of take it from my vision a little bit to his own. Right. So, but that's how, like, her swing arm on her FXR, the bushings went out.
Oh yeah, that was.
And so she was like, "Hey, I'm starting to get a wobble," and all that stuff. And then the deal with Adam was like, "Oh, you could work on the FXR4 for money or for the parts." And then I was like, "Oh, I need a swing arm, and I know where there's a good one."
Yeah.
So I just went after it, and so she's got the R4 swing arm and brake caliper on her lowrider now.
Well, like, we've had the discussion. He's like, "Man, these bikes are a lot to maintain and keep up." And I was like, "But you always come across the parts, so we always have them lying around.
The right place, the right time."
Yeah, like always when you.
Yeah, I was hoping to put that on my bike.
No, but initially, so when I first fired her up and took her for a spin, I mean, we basically had no dollars into that bike. It was crazy. That's labor time, but no money into it. So I was like, not bad for a free bike,
Yeah.
She's gone a ways.
Even the picture she posted today of her and Theo riding the Dragon, I was like, that's a good looking bike.
Yeah, I saw it. That is a good looking bike. I like that bike. Yeah. So when you were back out in Oregon, did you ever do the Babes Ride Out? I think that's California stuff, isn't
it? That was the worst part, is all of those events really started going there in 2020, and so I booked out 2 of them.
It got canceled or something, right?
Yeah, Babes Ride Out and the Lita's event down in Arizona, Utah. Gotten tickets for all those events in 2020, and everything got shut down. It was just a total bummer. So I've never done any of the West Coast circuit for the women's events.
That's why, like, the 2020 West Coast FXR Jam was so much fun, because it was like all these people were like, "Well, we don't give a fuck."
It's the end of the world.
So, like, all her events were like more legitimate, and just got canceled. And I'm like, you can't cancel a bunch of dudes just showing up somewhere.
Yeah, they're gonna start.
So, yeah, it was fun. I didn't get sick or nothing. Like, we had a good time.
Right. Have you been to the East Coast FXR Jam?
No.
That was a goal for this year. Was to
so more recently, getting my finances in a better position and stuff. Trying to be a little more grown up, responsible. Yeah. Stay off marketplace.
No fun.
But the shop, like I got to really plan it, to get some time off, just based on the season of wanting to, because right now there's we're actually.
What does the shop even have going on?
I don't know. Well, it just depends. Like, Dan and I are the two technicians there right now, so it's just kind of like 2 of us really working to keep things flowing. Looking at bringing on another person here soon, because we've had people kind of ebb and flow, come and go from different purposes or another, moving in and out.
I think I saw my buddy was down at your shop. I saw you show some pictures, him in the back there. So I don't know, maybe getting a job there.
Oh, a Coley or what?
Yeah, Coley.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great personality, and that was really, like, we've stayed in touch and stuff. So he's definitely passionate about it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm hopeful. We'll see, you know, kind of what John's decision is on certain stuff, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Coley's a good kid, good dude. I met him at the Indian Larry block party this year. So
Nice.
yeah,
I rolled out there, and he was in a group that we met up with and started chatting, and seemed like a pretty good dude.
yeah, it's pretty neat to kind of just, you know, you float around enough and you start meeting these people or putting, you know, faces together with the online personalities and things, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's
that's
neat.
right. Now that's why it's like Jim and I want to put this podcast out because, like, I'm an FXR guy. Jim's kind of he likes he's getting into the FXRs, but introduce him to all these FXR guys. It's just a good community behind, and all these events that you can meet people, and I love it.
Yeah, it becomes a family real quick. Actually, oh gosh, what's his first name? Wheelo Skilos is Instagram handle. He was so excited to go out to smoke out. He's like, "Oh, I could finally get to meet you guys. I've been following both of y'all for so long." And I
Yeah,
didn't even park the bike as soon as we got there to the FXR show. And he rolls up, but he's got the GoPro out. And he's like, "Hey, nice to meet you." Da, 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 da. I was like, man,
Yeah.
yeah.
it just becomes, it's like, you know, these folks because you follow them. We're passionate about the same things.
No, that's true. Though,
It's
like,
just like family as soon as you meet up. It's insane.
right? Like I was telling Jim, I said, so I messaged you, and I didn't realize that Jesse was your husband because I knew of Jesse. And
I
what
gotcha.
I messaged you thinking you'd be a cool guest. You're into FXRs. I love it. I love seeing
Yeah.
the girls ride. And then you said, bring my husband on too. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, Jesse.
Oh, that.
I'm like, oh, him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
she's
don't
got
post too
more.
much of him. He's too
She's got
popular.
more engagement than I do. I've just been like, you know, I've got my projects aren't at a level to post right now. So,
Yeah,
He keeps putting himself down.
I know.
but
That's what we do.
I think that the projects like are always at a level to post. I love seeing a bike torn down to pieces and just hearing about like what somebody's ideas are or their vision for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I think that's a phenomenal video, even if it changes 25 times. Like
Oh yeah,
I love hearing that.
every project.
all
From this
right,
guy.
yeah. So I'll keep that in mind because
Well, he's
mine
posted
do
his
change.
stories.
Yeah,
You know.
my stuff does change from time to time.
So what's your daily rider now? The black FXR, Jesse?
It was until I just ripped the drivetrain out of it.
All right. Oh,
So
so
There's that.
yeah.
yeah, so through other trades and other stuff, and John gets deals from the shop, and then he passes them down on to me, and the FXRT back there. I bought from him, and then with like, you know, the kids and stuff, it was all right. Now I'm gonna sell that too, you know. And then Jeff Holt, he moved out to Tennessee as well, which was pretty cool.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, so he lives like right down the road from our shop now.
Oh, I thought he was
So
still in Arizona. Huh, all right.
yeah, so he's been doing some of his medical treatment and stuff back in Cali and kind of traveling around a little bit.
Yeah.
But his home, you know, like I'll go out there if he's not there and check the mail or whatever. So it's kind of another weird thing of just being at Dream Rides and being tied into the community of seeing people like him online, and then I'm like out at his house. You know, like
That's
I
crazy.
house sat for him for a while, took care of their dogs.
It's funny.
But
I've been
so
following
I
him
sold
forever.
him the FXRT back behind us, and S&S like hooked him up with 111. So we had a transmission and a motor, but we didn't have a bunch of the small stuff. So I just like, all right, you know what? I'm going to twin cam my black FXR right now, and I just robbed all the parts and put his drivetrain together.
Oh, nice.
You know, so that bike is essentially almost done, you know, in like 2 days versus,
It's a coming.
you know, hunting for parts and everything.
So you're saying he might have it for Daytona? He's got a bunch of shows he's putting on Daytona.
No, yeah, this was supposed to be down there, so
Oh, right on. Yeah, I can't wait. He's got a couple of shows going on. I'm looking forward to going to because that's
yeah.
my next trip going to Daytona. So
Yeah, so my goal with this one is like get it down there for him and get it running, and then like I know Jeff that he's gonna, you know, want to do. He's already sending me like, do I change this? Do I change that? I'm like, just let me get it together, you know, like, let's get it running and rolling, and
yeah,
then build off of that platform, you know.
right on. Yeah. So when you say you're gonna get it to him down there, does that mean you're gonna ship it to him, or you're gonna come down there?
I don't know if I'll be down there. I'll probably be working. But the bike will be there, so I don't know. I haven't talked to him about his logistics yet, but he asked me to have it ready for Daytona. So
Good.
that's
Yeah, but also Dave's out in Nashville and he's got the V Twin Viz trailers and stuff out there. So I
yeah.
figured he
So
could pop by.
there's people rolling through on their way down there that will be able to get it on a trailer or something. And
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he'll let me ride it.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
And then
RTM.
this other one here, this is Brian's bike, and this one will be ready. We're working out a deal for him to like meet me and pick it up like in May for like TMMR or maybe Texas Hills.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you guys about TMMR. So have you been to that event?
Oh
She did.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
I
did.
went to
Yep.
it last year. It's a blast, and I'm really hoping they do put it on this year. There was some drama that went down last year.
I was detained.
You were.
I was in some heat with the law, so we won't go there.
All right. I kind of like that
But
story though.
yeah. No, TMMR is great. Good vibe, good atmosphere, great people. So much happening in just one venue. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't even have to leave. They do ride from there, but you just hang out there all day. They got the dirt track going. They've got small events out in the fields. They've got the creek running. Kickstart contests, all the fun stuff. It's amazing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's at the Loretta Lynn's ranch, right? So I mean,
Ranch. I mean, so you're literally on a 200-acre ranch or something crazy, and you got the whole place. It's
why would you want to go anywhere else?
Nope. As long as they got food and drink, you're good.
Yep. Now, is Bill Dodge still a part of that? Lynn Cycles?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
That's a good
I think
question.
at the beginning it was like the Bill Dodge Invitational. I remember like he'd have a show in it and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They've got like the chopper show, and then the V Twin Viz is there.
Last year they were like pushing real hard for like the veteran side of things and getting involvement and people like that. So that was what like even not without the association of Dream Rides, they were like, hey, do you want tickets? Being a veteran and whatnot. So
Yep.
that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a good one. But yeah, logistically in the future for that show, I'm not sure what's happening. I know they're in some legal troubles because of what happened last summer, but hoping
So
things work out for
we
the
haven't
best.
seen anything that would say there was a hiccup or not, but
they're still selling tickets, so we'll be there.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I think, but
I mean, I'd like to get down. I'd like to get to Tennessee. I've been to a lot of states. I've never been to Tennessee. I'd like to go ride.
Smoky Mountain Bike Week is a blast too. So
Jim and I were talking about that.
Yeah, if you need a couch, but yeah, that was fun. Like I spent a lot of the time just working, and it's fun for events like that where I like being busy, and these people come in and you get to try to be the hero, of like, all right, I'm stay late, whatever it is, like I'm gonna fix your shit and get you back out riding, and they really enjoy it,
Yeah. I told him though, I was like, man, do some of these people literally come to events and smaller shops to get the work done? And he was like, yeah, some of these people can't expect work. I was like, it's kind of crappy for you, but then again, business is business, so you got to do it, right?
Right.
I mean, Dan was tuning bike after bike. He just lived on the dyno, and I was just doing everything else, and it was a busy week, and it's a blast, And then we do get to cut loose, and we did like our downtown stuff, and
Dream Rides did a ride.
John will like harass the neighborhood in a way where it's like, hey, if you're wearing any sort of Dream Rides gear, you can get free beer from our keg because we have a friend who owns a bar downtown.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so there's just like a flood of Dream Rides like everywhere. And it's just like, it was wild.
Speaking of that, I want to get one of those, the Hot Wheels the new T-shirt that he put out.
Oh, yeah. The best one.
We got some blue ones now. So what size?
Yeah, I like those. Yeah, extra large.
Extra large? Okay. All right.
Right on. I just had a question that I can't remember. Jim, come on, tell me something.
I don't know, but now I know if I go down there, I got to get lots of Dream Rides gear so I can get lots of free beer.
Free beer
It-
all the time, everywhere.
It's
So
interesting. Well, I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say it's interesting to hear the perspective of you working, the events and stuff, because like for me, the draw of the events is going to different places and riding in those areas, and you kind of walk around and you see the stuff, but to hear it from your perspective of being there, to want to be able to like help people and grow the business
Yeah.
and that, it's a totally different mindset.
Well,
Yeah, so
like even the Dream Rides grand opening, that first May, threw down a grand opening. This guy worked the whole time, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be celebrating that you started this." And he's like, "Yeah, but this guy's, clutch cable came loose, and this guy's brake caliper fell out." And he's like, "I got to get these people on the road." And I was like, "All right, I get it. I mean, I get it." And he did cut loose at the end
Yeah.
there, but
so even like
that's the dedication this guy brings
other
to
stories,
everything.
like when we sort of first opened, there was another Marine friend of mine rode like a few hours to have us dyno tune his dyna, and then like we ended up having this crazy fuel pump issue where there was a bunch of crap in the tank and we couldn't finish it, and we're like, dude, we got to order this stuff. And he's like, I have a job interview tomorrow. And I said, here's the keys to my truck.
Yeah.
And he took my truck, and I was supposed to be looking for houses. So she's calling me like, hey, why aren't you going out looking for houses? And I was like, well, I gave my truck to some guy I met yesterday.
I was just like, what?
And he had it for like a week. And then, like, for Smoky Mountain Bike Week this last year, like I said, Dan was dyno tuning bike after bike. And there was a crew of our friends that all three of them had motor work and other stuff done and were tuning their bikes one after the other. So for 3 days in a row, I said, hey, go ride my M8 Softail. So either they all took turns. I'm like, while your bike's being tuned, go enjoy the whole, your experience is out there. I'm here to work, So that was my side of it, was like, hey, just go have fun, go rip it. And then they all came back and go, what is in this motor?
How many times have you seen that guy that borrowed your truck since then?
Brad, I've seen him a couple times and stuff, but we stay in touch, and he's helped me out with some parts. He makes the thread in FXRP, like he 3D prints or something, the pod lights.
Lights, yep.
Is it Renegade or something like that? Like, but he's a rad dude. So like we stay in touch.
It sounds like I got to come to Smoky Mountain Bike Week next year. But so when I come down to Dream Rides, is John going to have the sex mannequin doll still hanging out, or what?
We got a couple.
Hang out around
All
the
right.
back. They'll get tossed around,
Yeah.
That's
Like,
fine.
dress it up
They're
here and
busty.
there. I am glad that he kept the original neon signs from Sandy's Lingerie.
Yeah, so we have the Sandy's Lingerie sign over our painted parts shelf.
No, yeah, 'cause I remember hearing John. He was on, I think he was on the Fast Life Garage podcast, and he was talking about that. It was pretty cool.
That was the funny thing too of that podcast. And like, I was traveling out here, and I was somewhere kind of like Midwest, and having drinks at a hotel, and started talking about motorcycles and the idea of like moving to work on them and stuff. And this guy was like, "Oh, you should listen to the Fast Life podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, my boss, like the guy, like he was on that like that's the one you just heard."
Yep.
So
just there.
That's pretty cool. Have either one of you guys ever been up to Milwaukee to the HD Museum?
That's another trek we need to make.
So all of my Harley training was Phoenix. Most of it was Phoenix, and then I went to Orlando for like some advanced, what was it, like the electrical, or I don't know, this diagnostic stuff.
Yeah, is that in Daytona still? Because that was right next to the Harley dealer, right? The Destination Daytona. It was like
no, I was in Orlando.
Oh,
Orlando sucked too. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Florida. I bet there'll be good food, and no, it was straight tourist trap, like bland. Fucking.
He even told me at one point, he's like,
bummed.
I don't even want to leave like my Airbnb or whatever. He's like, it's just trash out there.
Yeah. Orlando's horrible.
Yeah.
The roads are straight.
Although
there's like there was no ocean. It was just fucking like,
oh, you're in the middle of hell.
There's nothing cool.
Orlando's about one thing, and that's the mouse, man. Everything else doesn't matter. It's all about the mouse, and that's why it's there.
Yeah.
they were like, you could do like indoor like go-karts and others. I was like, I don't fucking care.
So this is a guy that when he went to his first Harley training, gets sent down to MMI through the dealership back home, and he sends me a picture of him on a goddamn bull ride, and I was like,
Cave Creek or whatever. Like we
Oh,
went
yeah.
out to the bar.
I was like, if you get stomped by a bull, how are you gonna finish this class this week?
Because I had back-to-back motor classes, so I was there longer than like everyone. And the weekend in between, these guys were like, go out to the bar, and they're like, "Hey, I'll pay for it if you ride the bull." I was like, "Yeah,
Leave it to the Marine to jump on the bull.
Now this is a
Go on
real flesh and blood bull, not
Yeah.
a mechanical bull.
yeah."
Yeah, you're
It
making the
was
right
not the
choice.
smartest thing I'd ever done.
You're making the right choices, man. Because
He's crazy.
how many times is that opportunity going to come up again? When have you ever had a chance to ride a bull ever again?
Yeah, I was wearing slip-on Vans, and there was like a real cowboy next to me, and I was like, "Hey, bro, like, I don't know if this is like too personal or too weird, but like I feel kind of exposed wearing these shoes. Can I use your boots for this?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, that's too far." I was like, "Okay."
It's
Don't
funny.
ask for it.
When I was in Arizona last year for Bike Week, Cave Creek, I went to that. I forget what they call that bar, but it's a huge bar across the street from the other bars, and
Yeah.
that was a huge night watching the Cowboys ride the bulls and whoever rode
Yeah.
the bull riders, and it was packed. I enjoyed it. I'd never seen it before. Coming
yeah.
from
Yeah.
New Hampshire, Massachusetts, I'd never seen that shit.
Y'all don't do any of that up there?
Well, like
No.
the summer or whatever before that too, like 2019, I crashed an FXR and fractured a wing in my L2 vertebrae. So like I was like freshly off of a back injury and riding a bull.
Oh,
Like, bro, like, what do you?
Did you make it the 8 seconds?
No,
No.
I don't think I saw
it was like a solid 2.
Is there video of this?
There was someone had a video. Yeah, it was not that impressive.
That's funny.
Although
Hey,
this weekend we might be bull riding on the mechanical bull.
The mechanical bull, I'm pretty
yeah, that's pretty ballsy though to get on a real bull.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I
this
think
guy
I
has
would.
I was pretty scared. Like,
Yeah.
you're in the chute, and climb down on this giant animal, and I couldn't get my leg down because it was leaning up against like the cage, and the guy was like, "Pull it over, like move it," and I was like, "What? This is like,
3
2,000.
tons.
I don't know how much they weigh." I was like, "It was a giant," and he's like, "Pull it," and I moved and it went with me. And I was like, "Oh, okay," and I dropped my leg down, and it just squished my leg back.
Oh.
Yeah, and just so you know, New England, we really don't have anything. There's nothing here. It's the worst.
None of the good stuff. Yeah, because we've watched PBR. I've watched it here in Tennessee. Watched it back home in Oregon.
Yeah.
The bull riding circuit's a big thing down in the southern states.
Yeah, no, we got skiing, we got mountains and snowmobiling.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Well,
cold.
Dusty that worked at Dream Rides for a hot minute. He was a real bull rider and stuff, and he, I'd be kind
He's
of
a little man too.
He's tough though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to be too big.
Right.
No, yeah.
I say bull riders and jockeys, horse jockeys are tiny little guys.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Brian lives in arguably the best state in New England. It's New Hampshire or Maine. There's really no competition after that for sure. So like if you ever got forced to move up here, it's New Hampshire or Maine's where you want to be. But like there's just not stuff like that here. Like people are, I don't know, people. If you told me you were going to bring in a live bull, they would look at you like you were insane.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, I've always wondered how hard life is in Maine because I keep seeing these properties pop up.
Yeah, there's some beautiful stuff up there.
There's some beautiful property up that way.
Have you ever been out here, New Hampshire, Maine? Have you ever been out here?
No, I've never been up the eastern seaboard at all.
Oh, really?
I went with John to deliver some motorcycles up to New York. We like stopped in Jersey and went up, up through the city a little bit and seeing some of these skylines and places that I've only seen in movies.
Yeah.
But we didn't really stop. It was a turn and burn. So
you guys gotta
time.
come up for Laconia. Bring the kids. My kids, I have a 10 and 11-year-old. They got dirt bikes. There's plenty of trails out there.
Oh
so your kids can ride out in the trails. We can go ride Laconia.
Shoot.
We got a couple of dirt bikes just this year for our kids. So.
Yeah, there you go. Bring them.
Shaking things out.
Heck yeah,
Yeah,
they
We
love
like
it.
to leave the kids at home though.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
No,
Maine,
my
just so you know, Maine is like phenomenal because
It looks gorgeous.
you can be like 45 minutes from the coast and it's dirt cheap to live.
Right.
And the whole like western northern part of Maine is like real country. Like there's 2 cities in northern Maine. It's Presque Isle and Caribou, and they're 10,000 people.
That's
And
it?
that's it. Those are the 2 largest cities in northern Maine. It's
Yeah.
you can get real
it never
lost
gets
in Maine.
warm.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Right.
I flew into Bangor, Maine a couple times or whatever, coming back from deployments and stuff, and there was always like people there to greet us, but we didn't get to see much other than an airport, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Bangor.
Bangor's a city.
Make a
but
trip up the East Coast one of these days for sure.
Yeah.
That's been on the bucket
Well,
list.
yeah, even if we don't complete like a full on FXR Triple Crown thing this year, like I think making the FXR jam up there would be pretty legit, because I did the California one a couple times, and now living out here, like I mean, I bought Mario. I bought a FXRT from him. I bought another FXRT frame from Chris Harry, and like, you've done business with these people over the last 10 years and seen the names and discussions and all of that, where I haven't met them in person yet, and that would be pretty cool.
And that was the craziest thing about moving out here too, is he's like, oh man, we'll be so close to just buzz up to the East Coast Jam, and we're now 3.5 years later and we haven't made a point to make it up there. So we were both talking about that. We're like, we want to hit the East Coast Jam and Sturgis this year.
And Sturgis would be pretty
although Milwaukee would be fun too. So
So
just gotta prioritize.
Yeah, but definitely East Coast. Chris, like you said, Chris Harry, he's at the swap meets and stuff that I go to, selling some stuff, and he's putting on a little FXR mixer down in Daytona this year. So I'll go hit that up, and he does East Coast FXR jam stuff, and he was on the FXR tour, so he lives probably 40 minutes from me.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
I actually
it's a big community, but
I got him to sell me an FXRT clamshell once, and he's like, I don't sell parts, and I was like, okay, yeah, but I'll pay you good money, and I won't tell anyone until now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Loose lips think shit.
When I see him at the swap meet, he doesn't have any cool parts. I said, "Where's all the cool stuff, man?"
He keeps it hidden, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Got that stash for the builds.
Yeah, he's got some stuff, and he almost had an FXR, one of the 80 anniversary edition ones. The 88 was like the black and brownish color anniversary FXR lowrider that I wanted to buy so bad, but I didn't.
There's so many out there right now. Now that he's got me hooked on them, I'm watching everybody's posts. I'm like, man, I could do an RP. I could do an RT. I could.
Yeah.
Stop. You've got me hooked, and now I don't know what to do with myself.
Marketplace is the worst thing for me. I can't.
Yeah. It is.
Oh, dude.
It is.
I want to make a T-shirt that just says, "Have you checked Marketplace?" Like on the back, like, when's the last time, or how long has it been since your last, like?
Oh man, it's a disease. Because even
well, I know we're going to Louisville, so I'm already like looking up there. I'm like, hey, we're going next weekend. What parts are in the area?
So we take the kids to the beach down in South Carolina, and we go camping on the beach there. There's this beautiful spot. It's just over the sand dune campsites right there on the beach. And we're leaving. We're packed up. We're loaded up. And he's in the van just scrolling through his phone. I was like, what are you doing? You are not on Marketplace. And he's like, well, down in Savannah, there's this.
I was like, it's only an hour away.
Time. Yeah. Like, whoa.
Well, even
vacation.
On our family convoy from Oregon to Tennessee here, we were like in Indiana somewhere, and we're at a hotel, and I found the set of Sportster hardbags that are actually on the R4 now. They were for sale for like 100, 150. And they were like half an hour away. So I woke up early before everyone, and she was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to go get these parts. I'll be back. Before you're ready with the kids, I'll be back to hook up the trailer again, and we'll keep going. So I just was like on a mission.
I've done that before too. We were up in Maine somewhere, and I have this thing for little ATC 70s. little
Mhm.
3-wheelers.
Mm-hmm.
They're overly priced where I am right now.
Yeah, like $4
Oh,
grand.
they're so
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
So this guy had one for a really good price. I'm like, I'm here. I just gotta go get it.
Can't
So
not.
like,
Yeah.
I'll bring back donuts for the kids. I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, now I'm even the one watching Marketplace for stuff though, and I sent him one a while back,
Yeah.
and he kind of passed it off, and they dropped the price down to 4,500 on this really clean FXR.
Oh yeah, there's a.
So he asked me again. He's like, "Where's that post? Can you send it to me again?" I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, you got too many projects back here."
If anyone's really looking, yeah, $4,500. There's like a 93, I think,
94,
94 maybe FXLR, like half an hour away from me right now, and it's just like it went from like $7 grand down to like 4,500, and it's pretty nice. I'm like, man, I already bought a bike.
It's
So.
clean. It just does say that the speedo cable's F. So I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for an FXR, but like right now, I need to find one with original paint. That's like my.
Yeah, this one's.
Yeah, that's what I need.
we got the one for you. Well, that was like even Lefevre is the one that does the paint for the shop and Jesse and everything around these parts. Well, Lefevre was up northeast a while back, and something came up on one of the FXR pages. I sent it to him. I was like, "You got to go get this bike."
Oh yeah.
And Lefevre was like, "I'm in hot water as it is."
Yeah, I love doing that too. Of like other friends that I know shouldn't be on Marketplace as well. I'm like, hey, check this out.
Oh yeah,
right where you are.
Yeah,
Got to fuel the fire somehow.
I do that to Clint a lot. It's like,
he's got what, 3 or 4 now?
Yeah, he's got some cool FXRs. You got like this purple, real like '90s version type of.
It's extra low, like it's lower than my bike. Clint doesn't post too much, and I think he's private, but guys got some nice rides.
So
nice mullet too.
Oh, I'm jealous of that shit.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Hey, you remember Get Bent Moto, Ben from Get
Yeah.
Like, where'd he go? Where's his videos? What's happening?
He's been quiet.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah,
anything.
I've been like he's over near Nashville and stuff, so I'm not sure like what other adventures he might have going on.
I swear your video was like one of the last ones he posted. I'm like, what the hell did Jesse do?
I saw a story of his a while back that he was working on. It looked like some more like corporate commercial level stuff instead of his podcast. But
yeah, it almost looked like, I don't know if he works like Thundermax now or what. That's what it looked like.
He's close to them, so
Yeah.
That it makes sense that he has a little association with them, with being like kind of sharing a backyard. But he would, on my side of things, he was super rad. Like, it was something that he did for me where I didn't pay him to come out here. He and his wife came out, spent the entire day. They had to travel the 3 or 4 hours each way to kind of get here. We were all cold, and so that was pretty neat. I was grateful for that, in the idea that I got to share with friends and family and other people of the community.
Yeah, he did some good videos. I look forward to watching his videos. They were clean, put
he
together
has some
good.
nice equipment. Like he really had like a professional
setup.
Yeah, setup, and just kind of like he showed up here and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna go hit this spot," and I'm like, "I live here and I didn't know where that was." Like he reconned the whole thing. He had like aerial footage and maps.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool. Like you coming underneath that bridge when you come around the corner, that's pretty cool.
That was a cold day too, man. I was like, I don't know what time of year it was, but it felt like this. It was December or something, and it was like, he's like, "Hey, I got time if you got time." I was like, "I'm not going to tell you no because it's free."
Yeah, right.
And you're putting all this work in to help me.
Right. Well, and his wife rides too. She rides with a Nashville group called the Moto Sisters, and I've been to a couple of their events out in Nashville. But it's a long haul just to go for meetups and short rides. But yeah, I'm not sure if Ben's just doing more corporate work or what's going on at the moment.
But even over in Nashville, we went with these ladies, and they hit the Iron Goddess motorcycle show, riding her FXR, and Janine on her Road Glide, I think, especially cruising out there. So that was pretty cool.
Yep.
And it was neat to see other women like engage with Christina and go like, "Ah, we've been checking your stuff out and the work you're doing on your own bike." And
Yeah,
because
it's
it's not
definitely.
just me, like I
No.
put it together initially, but now it's like taking the time to educate or guide her on, you know, what she wants to do with her own bike.
Right.
Yeah,
So I've
yeah.
always been mechanically inclined. I was that 12-year-old kid holding the flashlight for my dad as he worked on Chevy transmissions back in the day.
She knows
So
more about cars than I do.
I know my way around some stuff, but
Nice.
for a while there, even one of the times we were working in the shop, he's like, "Was I overbearing? Like, did I tell you too much?" And I was like, "No, it's fine." Like, and also there's ins and outs to and certain tricks to getting a swing arm off and on properly without too much extra work.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. I'll take it. But it is fun, and I can't wait to do more to my bike. And
I can't wait. I love watching your video, everything on Instagram you put. So it's kind of cool just to see all the stuff. And I love those overalls. Are those from Renegade Babes?
No, these ones are Hell Babes. So
All
the
right.
Litas have like their merch brand. Bought these ones a hot minute ago, but I've been looking at stuff to wear to the track for the drag days. So I think
All
these
right.
are the ones. Pretty
Right
Those
stoked
on.
might
on 'em.
actually be the greatest overalls I've ever seen.
I'm digging them because most people just make the checkered in like pants, and I was like, no, I need the overalls. We're from Tennessee. Come on.
Yeah, overalls are the best. My
And
dad used to wear overalls every day. I swear.
I love it. I love it,
Yeah, he
especially on the
did.
bike. There's so many places to put fun
Pockets.
things.
Yeah, I gotta have my nerd pockets when I'm at work. Flashlight, whatnot.
Snack pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
I can see you guys. I can see the breath, so it must be cold there in that garage. So we're gonna.
The fire might be dying down, but I mean, we're doing all right. So
Yeah, but no, I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been one of the coolest podcasts. Get to talk FXRs with you too, and loving it.
It's been a blast. It's been nice to meet you guys, see some
Yeah,
faces.
yeah, definitely nice. And if you ever come up, Laconia, but I'm gonna be at Smoky Mountain next year, so
yeah. Friend Will invited me. He was like, "You need to go to Donnie Smith too," and I was like, "That would be pretty rad." Just any event really is it's fun to be in the industry now, and then having that where like I've been at Dream Rise for 4 years now, so you keep showing up to events, you know, whether it's once a year or not, like, but it's just seeing people and being established in that and sharing the friendship with people is pretty rad. So it's just like the more I can get to, I would love it.
yeah, yeah. The Donnie Smith show, where is that? I know that's right after Daytona. 'Cause I usually see people going there. Is
Yeah, I think
that
it's pretty close.
like Kentucky?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I don't
forget.
know. I got to figure. Yeah, but I've seen all the pictures and stuff, and there's like the level of bikes that people are bringing to some of these things is just wild. Like even the smoke out, they had the Legends Hall. Is that what they called it?
Yeah.
Like, but you just go like walk through that area, and I mean, I would go through over the course of the weekend 5 times or more, you know, and you just keep like seeing more stuff, and you just take it in.
Yeah.
Where the creativity and the talent that people have is insane. Like for me as a technician and a bike builder or just assembler really of I like to make things rideable because that's just what I do, you know, day to day. But these guys are like just insane. Like there was one motor where the case halves weren't like side to side. It was like the cylinders were a part of the upper the case. You know, like it was just like the cylinders were it was all cast. You know, I was like, what the, you know, so like you got to like put like the pistons and everything in and the flywheels in like from the bottom and then like bolt the lower onto it.
Yeah.
And then like the heads on top of that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're like, it doesn't make sense to really do it in a functional way, I guess, but it's rad.
Rad,
you know?
yeah. So is there a bike besides an FXR that you would like to build? Like if you could, what's the next bike you would like to build? Not an FXR.
Yeah. So I am excited to kind of put together my M8 Softail, but that's already mostly together, you know. Now it's like paint and stuff. So man, for myself, you know, I don't really know quite what's next. You know, I'm going to do the twin cam in the FXR, and I've helped John, with one of his latest twin cam projects, but I haven't done it for myself yet. So on one hand, it's kind of like almost a waste of time because the M8 is just badass.
Yeah.
So and now these guys are like modifying the frames enough to put an M8 in these things where you're like, that would be just insane amount of power and torque. But for my capabilities, what I have right now and the parts that I have on deck is a twin cam, so I'm going to try to do something with that. And my goal with the twin cam in my bike is just to make it look stock, like I just want it to look like a regular bike and just be rideable.
Yep. That's like, Corey from Main Drive Cycle.
Oh, he's insane.
Dude,
he's amazing.
That talking about looking like factory, that his blue FXR with the M8, you wouldn't know. If you didn't know motorcycles, you'd walk up to that thinking, hey, it's a brand new bike.
Yeah, that rolled out like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like
amazing.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
nice.
that clean.
Yeah, he is a true talent. I really enjoy watching things from him. Man, some of these other guys have some really cool stuff, like with Fast Life and them. Like they've got some other projects rolling out where it's just really neat to stay tuned for this thing.
Definitely, yeah. Jace is doing a shovel head right now.
Yeah.
So like, I have a shovel head, and I think next winter I'm going to finally hardtail it, take the motor out. This is going to be really not like out of my realm. Like I'm a cake decorator. I can make the bikes look good, but I can't the motor work. So I'm going to pull the motor. I'm going to have somebody else weld on a hardtail, and then I'm going to put everything back together. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing that next winter. But he's doing it right now, so I'm kind of watching him. And
Right.
Yeah. So at Dream Rides, John just foot the bill for like some machine equipment. So we've got like lathe and mill in the back that our other machinists. So John's wife, her Uncle Darren is a machinist and he's retired, lives right down the road from the shop, has a machine shop at his house. And so he's been there setting our equipment up, and he's helped me out with like just all my weird, I go to the swap meet. I'm like, hey, I got this part, but it doesn't really work.
Let's make it
Yeah.
work. Yep.
So he's helped me out. And then like my buddy Dan at work, he's a welder. So like, it's rad just to be like, I'm trying to like pick up those types of skills where, these guys are really talented with other things that I just can't do right now.
Oh yeah, like I wish I had a lathe because with my shovel head now I got a narrow glide 35 mil, and I just shaved the leg, so it took me hours to cut them off, use the flap disc, and then sanded them down just like.
Oh God.
So my garage.
She's been in the living room, and I'm like wet sanding fork lowers.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you, and then I'll go out here and polish them and stuff, so she's like, all right, come on. The patience of this woman is pretty amazing.
You got to have it though, right?
It's a lifestyle. I'm all about it.
It is. It's awesome. Well, this is probably the longest podcast we've ever done, but
we can go all night, really. I mean,
we really listen. If you guys want, we can make it a two-parter. We can just keep going.
Yeah, because I mean, like in Hawaii, it was a talking story. Talk story. You just like shit. Like, let's go.
Keep shooting it.
Yeah, just keep it rolling. So, have you ever had a shovel head?
No, I have not yet. I've worked on a few. Even like we had one guy that brought in a 74. I don't know what the heck it was really, but it was. I mean, the tires were older than I am. They were original tires on it, and I was like, dude, like he wanted it roadworthy, but he wanted to keep it like all as original as we could. And I rebuilt the carburetor, and it had a leather diaphragm for the fuel or the accelerator pump.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. And I was like, things like that. I'm like, I'm working on this bike, and I made a couple little adjustments in like the wiring because the turn signals weren't working, but I was trying not to like be invasive with it, so but at the shop, I start griping and bitching and stuff, and I'm like, man, if I wanted to work on a shovel head, I'd fucking own one.
Yeah, that's a blessing and the curse too of being in the industry, enjoying stuff, but then sometimes he'll come home griping where I'm like, man, do you really like what you do? All you do is bitch about it.
Yeah,
Well, you,
I've
How are
always
you
been
gonna
that way.
deal?
Even in the Marine Corps, guys are like, dude, you're just like, I'm like, I'm still here doing it. I'm
yeah,
just gonna
Obviously,
bitch
I'm the
about it.
sucker.
that's what we do. We bitch about it, but we love it.
Yeah.
That's like it's like riding in the rain. We hate it, but then a week
It
later we're
actually
like,
has been
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
best trip ever.
She was crazy. Like, it started raining on our way to was it the smoke
It was a
out?
smoke out
The
2 years ago.
smoke out 2 years ago. And I'm like slowing down, like,
So he's on
she's
the
passing everybody.
R4 and I'm on the 2017 Iron.
Yeah, she's on the Sportster.
And I was like, F it, I want to get through this because we could see this storm cloud come over going through the mountain pass from Tennessee over to South or North Carolina. And we see the dark cloud and I'm like, oh man, please just let us stay north of it, whatever. And nope, sure enough, the road turns straight into it. And I was like, F it, I'm going to throttle through and get out of this crap because I hate riding in the rain. And it's dumping. Like, I can't see more than 10 feet in front of me. And he just falls back. And I was like,
She was passing
I'm not
semis
waiting
and
for
stuff.
you.
And I couldn't even see the road. Like,
Get through this shit.
yeah.
But then the
I mean,
beauty of like Tennessee, Carolinas in the summertime is
we were dry by the time we got there.
yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
45 minutes down the road we were dry, Went through
yep.
a 5-minute rainstorm and boom.
That's like up here in Laconia. It rains every year in Laconia, so every year. So what was it? Were you with us, Jim, this year? So we left my house.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. 5 minutes down the road, downpour. We were soaking wet. We made it to
Feels like the Oregon coast.
yeah. We made it to a gas station. There had to been 75 bikes just underneath the overpass, just waiting to leave. Cars were pulling in, pulling out. Like, sorry, you're not getting gas right now.
Sorry, not today. Go to the next one.
Yeah, but yeah, we were so good.
But yeah, that was the same thing because we got what would you say, 2 miles up from that gas station? It wasn't raining.
Yeah.
By the time we hit the hill climb, we were all dry.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it does. And the forecast for Laconia this year was sunny and 85 every day.
What? And of course you get the one storm.
It was just there was a cloud that day, probably what would you say, 6-7 miles around, like
over my house,
almost over your house. Yeah. And we had to get through it. Same thing. We were coming back. It was beautiful. It was sunny. We were riding. We're like, this is great. And then it just got black and we got soaked.
Oh, that's the worst too, is just you see it coming, but you're like, there's no stopping, there's no gearing up. You may as well just.
So with all of us like loving FXRs and everything, like that was one thing that was so rad about going to the West Coast FXR jams. Like part of it was the ride in, and the second year I rode with my buddy Durham Allen. He owns NA Performance in Grants Pass, Oregon, and he like bought this. I think it was a '94 RP like fairing model. And like didn't look at it at all. He's like, I just got this bike like a couple days ago. Let's go. And but you're like riding down the road and you look over and you're like, that's a badass bike. You just feel super cool, like riding with your friends and seeing cool stuff going down the road. But we were ahead of a storm, so in the mirror, like I could see the rain falling, and we were just like cruising ahead of it.
Yeah, that's like riding around here. Like I ride with my buddies with FXRs. And we'll be cruising by this mountain. I'm like, I wish I could take a picture of you right now because you look so cool on your FXR with the mountains behind you. And
yeah,
it's glorious.
That's what goes through my mind when I'm riding.
Yeah, because like there's been other times where you're just cruising with friends, but you don't really. I don't know. I had other friends that rode some stuff that I didn't really like, and then you see a bike that's really something that you would want. Yeah, cruising next to you it's pretty rad.
Definitely, I agree totally.
Yeah, we've had that conversation though, just about the weather and the things that you see and sense, all the senses you have when you're riding, and that's what really gets certain people hooked on riding, right? Is you're smelling the farm as you go by it and the fresh asphalt they laid, and you're running through the rain, and it's not the same experience you have in a car, but. Yeah, and sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it sucks and you hit that rain, and sometimes you have to pull over, but there's just nothing that beats that. It's insane.
No, and then you got in the summertime up here, you're cruising down and you kind of dip down, you feel the cold area,
Mm-hmm.
go right
Yeah.
through a cold spot, and
You
it's
go
like,
over a bridge, under a bridge.
yeah, it's just, I love it.
Well, and the wildest thing was that ride this summer. We were, I-90? Is that the one through Nebraska? God almighty. Either way, we're coming through out of Utah, headed towards Wyoming on the freeway, and the prairie dogs are out.
Oh.
And it's like back home in Oregon, it used to be the just the chipmunks in Eastern Oregon, and they'd zip across the road in front of you. But I'm talking like prairie dogs lining the freeway, just playing chicken with us. And I was sitting there, I was like, those are things you don't think about in a car, though, because you're like, F it, it's a tiny prairie dog. But you're on a motorcycle, you're like,
Catch
well,
it front wheel.
Yeah.
Wait, so prairie
it's
dogs
a
are
whole new experience, you know. You're like, you take it for
prairie
granted.
dogs are real things?
Prairie dog, yeah, little, well, not little. I mean, they're almost the size of a cat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and yeah, you can see their little gopher holes sort of on the median and the freeway and on the side, and they'd just be lining it. I saw one run right in front of a semi, and I'm like, I guess this is
The other thing now with her like riding an FXR that I like is like looking at it going down the road too. Like I'm staring at her half the time, cruising the road. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a sexy bike and sexy lady, you know. Like, all right.
half the time we get home, he's like, man, you look good on that bike. And I'm like, all right, thanks.
Yeah, she's like, calm down.
Oh, we all do that though. When you're riding like a little downtown area and there's a lot of glass, we all kind of peer
Oh,
over
yeah.
at
Yeah,
ourselves. Yeah.
That look cool as shit.
We want to
You
know.
gotta look, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like about riding bikes. Like, it really doesn't matter what you ride. Like, when you go out and you get wet or it's cold or something crazy happens, like in the moment you're gonna be like, oh, this sucks. But when you look back at it a few days later, you're like, that was the best time of my life. I've never said that. Never said it about being in the car.
We laughed about stuff.
Oh man, like boot camp was so much like that. You're like, this is fucking horrible. And then looking, 20 years go by and you're like, oh, that was hilarious. You know,
Yeah.
but
well, yeah. Like I actually set down my bike at a stop sign in BFE, South Dakota. So like I said, on this ride this summer, we were sort of up north, North Dakota, and we found out there was going to be the blizzard through Yellowstone and whatnot. So we dipped south down to South Dakota, and we rode the Enchanted Highway, which is a fun ride. There's all these wild metal sculptures all down this highway in the middle of nowhere. And we get through that, and the winds start brewing. You see the clouds coming, and we rode through, I shit you not, 2 hours of the mist from hell, freezing up on the plains. It's windy, it's misty. It was just enough that we didn't want to stop and put on the gear. And we come to some little town with a 4-way stop. And our newest rider, who is actually on my iron, is in front of me, and Katie comes to the stop, and she stalls out my Sporty. Well, I was just going to roll through because I wasn't feeling like stopping. Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I see her stall the bike, and I go to pull in the clutch, and my hand slips, and I'm literally just creeping, and I set the fucking bike down. And I remember sitting there in that moment. I jumped off, flipped the kill switch, and I was just sitting there screaming, fuck, 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 in the moment. And she gets the bike started and goes because she didn't see me tip it over behind her. I'm sitting there trying to pick the bike up myself, but my hands are freaking numb. I throw off the gloves. It's loaded. And some lady in a truck pulls up from the left at the 4-way, and she gets out and she picks up the bike with me. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, I'm just freaking embarrassed and pissed at myself, and no damage to the bike. Thank you, God. The highway peg, I was actually like high centered on the highway peg. So when I went to try and pull it up, it was just spinning in the road. But I sat there and I was like, that's the stuff that you gripe about it, you're pissed off in the moment, but the next day, and once we hit Sturgis that night,
creates the memories.
Clear skies, no fucking mist, and I was like, fuck that mist from hell, whatever. But we made it through, right? And you're like, you don't get those experiences in a car so much, and you just don't.
No, you definitely don't.
So, like, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012, and then shortly after, like 2014, I went to Canada one time, I think 2013. Then 2014, I rode back up there and met up with a group of guys just through Instagram, didn't know them, and we rode through BC up to Whistler, Kamloops, and a few, a bunch of other places down at Victoria Island, all this stuff. And it was like 2014 was just a massive year for me. I got my first kick of like VA disability pay while I was up in Canada. So we just kind of like went wild. I called the manager of the cell phone tower company. I was like, I'm not coming back yet, dude. I just spent like weeks up there riding motorcycles with these guys. And that had created so many memories for me that would just never go away, And so her and her girlfriends kind of started talking about this trip. And I was like, you know what? Like 2014 was a long time ago and I'm still talking about it. Like,
Right.
you need to go do this.
Yeah.
So I got her bike ready, tried to throw her as much cash as I could, and just was like, go for it. See what happens.
That was the craziest thing is, the ex was super possessive, didn't like me ride on my own. And I threw it by him last February. I was like, hey, Chrissy wants to do this crazy ride, 6,500 miles, 16 days, 4 of us ladies. And I expected him to be like, are you sure you want to go without a guy on hand? But no, he was just like, do it.
Good luck.
No hesitation. Do it. He's like,
Bring
I'll get the
some
bike
tools.
ready. Yeah. And then he's trying to load me up with 100 pounds of tools. And I was like, buddy, if it can't be fixed with a screwdriver or a wrench or a pair of pliers, I'm probably not going to do it myself on the side of the road.
She's like, I'm not you. And I was like, all right.
Yeah. Just chill out on the tools, but we'll take what we need.
So I just worked real hard on the bike before she left. Luckily, it came
It
out
held
okay.
Honestly, it was the ride was meant to be, though. Very few mechanical failures. The only really scary one was Sarah lost a front brake caliper going down Highway 101.
The bolt came out and the caliper was just hanging on one.
Dangling.
Yeah.
Really?
That was the most extensive mechanical failure. But
you just put a new bolt in it. It's good.
It's good.
It's fine.
We made it.
Zip tie
She
or
didn't
something.
wreck.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah,
that
zip ties come in real handy on road trips.
Yeah. Baling wires, zip ties. I have a whole kit. Like,
well, that's what I told you. I was like, if zip ties ain't gonna cut it, or can't be screwed down, it's just not happening.
Well, that's what Danger Dan always says. You break down, the road will always give back to you. There's going to be something on the side of the road that you can use to hold something on or something, so.
Yeah.
The universe provides.
That guy's, he lives up to the name.
Dude, that guy, I've met him in Daytona a couple of years. He's tall. I'm a tall guy. He's taller than me. He's a real biker. I'm not a real biker as him. He's a real deal. He's a biker.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, so he's cool.
Gotta say though, met some great people on that ride too. Just pulling into the Ukiah Harley, midday, it's 96 degrees out. We rolled in and everybody comes running out. Oh, lady riders, where are you from? They see the Tennessee plates and they're like, did you 4 ladies ride? And we're like, yeah, we did the damn thing, and we're turning around and headed back. And they wheeled that bike in so fast and got her out. We were like, it was just fun. We had some good conversations, some good camaraderie, even on our ride.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you can't replace those memories.
Yeah.
Road trips are the best. That's why I even like Marketplace. Take road trips to get some parts and
Yeah.
All things you won't forget.
The thing with Tennessee is like I'll look at stuff that's like down south of me, like in Georgia or something, and you're like, oh, it's right there. I could go get that. And then you go to try to drive these roads, and you're like, no, that's a 10-hour day.
Yeah.
I got busted a couple times. She's like, where are you? I'm like, oh, I thought I would be back by now.
I thought it was a 2-hour drive. Turned out to be 6.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Gotta double it.
Yeah, you'll probably find less stuff, but if you move up to New England, you literally can get there in 2 hours. Just about.
Right.
Well, you can go through a few states in a couple hours up here.
Yep.
Well, that was the wild part about moving out here is Oregon is such an extensive state. You can drive for 8 hours and still be in the damn state. And here, in like 1 hour every direction, you can be somewhere else.
Unless you're going west. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because Tennessee's like, Tennessee's long, right? Yeah. So yeah.
But it's just pretty wild. Or you'll go through.
I live
in an hour.
I'm in Rhode Island. I can be in Massachusetts in 20 minutes. I can be in Connecticut in 30 minutes. I could be in New Hampshire in 45 minutes.
So the wild part for me is looking at, especially up north, looking at the coastline. So the West Coast is pretty just kind of swooping straight down.
Yep.
But looking at y'all's coastline, I'm like, you don't just ride on the coast, do you? You kind of cut in and out and bob and weave through that?
That's why up in Maine, it's Route 1 is the road that goes up the coast, and it's pretty intense,
Pretty
along the
gnarly.
ocean the whole way.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's comparable to like a Pacific Coast Highway,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I've never been out to the Pacific Coast Highway, so I'm sure it's similar in times.
Right.
I would say Maine is probably the best coastal riding in New England, followed by Rhode Island, but it's small. New Hampshire's
Right.
it's a blip. I mean, it's just such a tiny little piece. Massachusetts, the coasts are nice, but it's really like in and out, in and out. Like you're really going like weird directions. Connecticut, the coast is incredibly populated. You can't drive. It's awful.
Interesting. Yeah, because like I said, we've talked about, sort of heading up the eastern seaboard, but I was always like, I don't know what it's like. And it seems like one of those places where, yeah, you're looking at the map, it's 50 miles, but it's going to take you 4 hours to do it. And I was like,
Sometimes,
what
yeah.
what does that riding clear up to the tippy top of Maine look like? It'll be interesting.
It'll take you a long time to get up there from.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maine's pretty big. Well, it's the biggest state around here, so it takes a while. Like I think Bangor, Maine, from me is 7 hours probably. So
it's way up there.
Yeah, it's way up there.
But Maine is phenomenal because the coast is so beautiful. Inland, I mean, when they say moose crossing, it's like legitimate moose crossing in Maine.
Like a whole herd.
I went up to Caribou, Maine in June of 2017. That year they set a record. They had 120 days of over 20 inches of snow on the ground. A heat wave in Caribou, Maine is 3 days in a row over 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty intense.
I watched those like Alone shows, like in Labrador or whatever, and I'm like, I love watching these like dudes like start. I'm like on the couch, like just gorging myself, and they're like,
they lose 100 pounds. Yeah.
But yeah, that looks like some brutal conditions, like the Marine in me thinks that I might be able to do something like that. And I'm like, I hate being cold.
Well, I think about so having lived in the Pacific Northwest, I'm like, we weren't that far north because we didn't get that kind of extreme, but for a month maybe out of the year. So that's majority of the year up in Maine then.
Yeah, Maine, it never gets warm. We go up to a beach every 4th of July, and if it gets to 73, 74, then we're lucky. But yeah, and we're on the beach, we're wearing hoodies and sweatpants, but
that's the Oregon coast just because of the wind.
I don't mind the humidity in Tennessee. During the summer it gets pretty intense. But
I still can't. I told him, I was like, I got to get a modular helmet for down here because it is so humid. Yeah. If you stop at any stoplight, you're just sitting here literally in a pool of your own freaking sweat. It's horrible.
What is that Bell helmet that you were wearing in that interview? It was like yellow. It had like the stripes.
Oh yeah, it's a Bell qualifier, and another marketplace find. I found it for $75, and it basically matched the FXR4.
I was like, that's a cool helmet.
Is it a nice retro look on that one?
The Bell.
I have a similar helmet.
I have a Bell mod, SRT modular helmet, and it's a game changer. So
yeah. No, I keep telling him, I'm like, I'm going to invest in one of these days.
Yeah, Jim just bought the Simpson.
The summer down here.
Yeah, it's
on another note of like the journey of it and everything was being a veteran. Like I used Voc Rehab, so part of me is always wanting to like motivate some people. So I'll just take this quick opportunity to, to preach a little bit about opportunities, and it was using Voc Rehab through the VA. I worked at the dealership and I got paid for OJT college credits, going to the dealership, getting the school funding, working for, Voc Rehab bought some tools. They, did all the supplies and things like that, where I just like met with a representative from the college and just broke down like what my goals were at Harley to try to become like the point where I could be a service manager or whatever it was going to be, to go through that. So there's a lot of people out there that maybe want to become a technician or want to learn, and that was one career path that they could choose to do.
To go, yeah, right on.
I think the biggest thing is just having the passion, but finding the time, but then also just slowly up in that skill set. Like not everybody can invest their whole time in the educational side of it or take the leap to just go to a small mom and pop shop. So
Yeah, so it was not always well, even like Coley wants to, maybe join the team at Dream Rides, which would be really cool, but it's just not always we got to make sure like someone's financially prepared to get into this. There's a lot of different avenues in the motorcycle industry that people could get in, but as a technician, are you prepared to survive off of what is there? And honestly, the pay that John's given me is the best money that I've ever made in the last 10 years. But for someone starting out, is their skill set prepared to make that kind of money? Like John pays us a minimum, and then with the proficiency, it jumps up, to a max point that we can make. So I'll make good money if the labor hours are there and the parts are right, and I can like pump through the jobs,
Yeah.
So um, it's not
takes some seasonal.
it's not the easiest career path to pursue, but I was climbing cell phone towers and stuff before this, after the Marine Corps, and then the motorcycle thing kind of presented itself, and I got my foot in the door at an independent shop, and it was just like, okay, well, screw working just to make money. Like, what's gonna work for my health and my sanity, and just to fulfill my life?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
or even hobbyists. You're like, well, man, I'm no good at building a motor, but until you get your hands dirty, are you going to learn, or do you care to learn? Some people don't, which is fine too. But
yeah,
it's a learning curve for everybody. I feel like
there were a lot of tasks that were of intimidating at first, and now it's routine. So it just kind of depends on where you get. Like, that's why I started doing this, was so I could learn to put something together for myself. And then it kind of graduated into just just to keep going,
yeah,
helping people.
This past summer, I was a truck driver. I retired. Then this past summer, I drove a dump truck, a 10-wheeler, part time, just because I was kind of bored. And I worked for this guy, and he would let me drive the bulldozer and the excavator and the front end loader. And just talking to him, he says 10 years experience minimum in a seat of an excavator. He's like, and then I'll hire you. I'm like, geez. So you put in 10 years as an operator, and he thinks after 10 years that's you're good enough to be on his team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have a vision for what you want. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Like, if you don't want to be the top dog, that's fine. But you have to have a vision for what you want. So like a guy like you, Jesse, like you're a guy that like wants to be not just proud of yourself, but proud of where you work. So like you do things like, hey, take my truck. And you're a business builder for an owner, for yourself. And like, that's your vision. And other people will come in and they'll be like, I just want to make a paycheck. I want to have a few bucks in my pocket.
Yeah.
And that's not always the best fit for certain types of places. That might be okay for an average dealer. They're a guy that comes in and they punch their ticket and they do the work, but they're not a business builder,
Right. Well, even at Dream Rides, like there's the days where there's a bread and butter job, so you're just changing tires all day. Sometimes you just need somebody that does just want to make a paycheck, but they still also have to have skills and at least the drive to contribute when things get hot and heavy. And motorcycle work is relatively seasonal, even down here in Tennessee. And it's pretty wild. But yeah, you've gotta give a hoot.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. That that's the thing these days. Some of these kids growing up, they just don't care. They don't have the desire. They don't have the work and to. What am I trying to say, Jim? Like they don't have
They don't have the drive.
the drive, but
The drive.
they have no respect for their job. Like
Well, I've worked at a couple different bike shops, and pretty much almost at every one, like I worked and I tried to push my education and experience to get to those locations, to get to those places, And here, at Rod's shop, we hired a kid that was like still in high school and stuff. He's like, "Oh, I'm just doing this, just so I find something better." And I'm like, I had to work to get here.
Yeah, like what's better?
Like you just walked right in, or John giving other people opportunities to dream rides. Like we've had some people, not every one of them, but kind of like squander the experience where you're like, dude, like I moved across the country to be here. I've took me 10 years to get here, to work in a shop that's like this, to be a part of this environment. And you just walked into it, but they don't realize what they're in, and you're like, you just want to shake them.
You could make so much out of this,
Yep.
Man, this is it's not just given to everybody, and John's not that type of guy, but he wants to give opportunities and see everyone grow, so that's what's cool about working for him.
Yeah, it is.
But I think that's a younger generation thing too. Like I think the younger generation now, like I'm gonna sound like an old man, but they just expect to show up and like have everything handed to them.
Right.
Like they don't know what hard work really is.
Well, honestly, like we've even got my 14-year-old daughter, and she's of a mindset that she doesn't need to do, the work at school and put in the effort because, oh, I'm just going to go be a veterinarian. I'm like, honey, like you got to understand something right here now. You're failing math, and I know you don't think math is a big to do, but vets have to know math. I was like, I'm not great at math either, but you've still got to learn the basics. You still got to play ball. And we're just trying to explain to her, the work ethic. You've got to express the work ethic while you can so that people want to help you further yourself down the road, right? Nobody's just going to give you the chance if you're not actually putting in the effort. And it's hard to convey, especially to some of these kids because they see other kids anymore just getting.
I've seen other people that want to be in the industry, and be worked at Dream Rides or not, and just they're not able to do it, like not for their own effort, Mm-hmm. Let's say like kind of maybe Dusty, for instance, he was rad. Like he worked his ass off, and it was just like for his family, it didn't really fit, So, that is someone that I think of that would be he was passionate about it, and was worked really hard to be here, but it just didn't provide enough, So it's a tough industry to be a part of at times.
Yeah, especially, I mean, if you have a family, like you said, it's probably a lot easier for a single guy. Like when I first started being a truck driver, I was a single guy. I'd work 12, 13 hours a day. I get all the overtime I can. I was a union guy. Mm-hmm. I got all the overtime I wanted, and life was great. And then you have kids, and that's why I ended up having to retire because I never saw my kids go to school. I never saw them come home. I was just kind of the guy that came and gone, went to work, and so.
Yeah. And I just posted about that because on Friday, like our youngest was getting some honors or whatever in kindergarten and stuff. As funny as that is. But I told John, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go, and it's no problem, So it's pretty cool to be in a motorcycle shop that will allow me to be a parent and support the kids. And when Dusty was here, his son was playing football, and he took time off to go watch games and things like that. So when my kids are old enough to partake, I'm sure I'll be doing the same,
Yeah, same here. Like I went to my first, he got honor roll. I was able to go watch him get his little diploma or certificate. So that was the first time. So it's great. For him to look out in the crowd and see me there, I could see it in his eyes. He was like, what are you doing here, Dad? You know,
Yeah,
it's
because Dad, usually working.
yeah. So
Oh.
it was pretty cool. But all right, I think we're really gonna wrap it up this time.
All right.
All right. Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
we'll wrap. But
Yep, yep.
hey, Jesse, I just want to say thank you for serving. We appreciate you guys, all the veterans out there and stuff. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm proud to have taken part in that type of history and to be friends with everyone and get to talk with guys like you.
Yep. And where can I know you don't go on Instagram a lot, but where can they find you guys? They want to go check.
My handle is dreamrides_JT on Instagram, and then we have the TaylorMade Custom Cycles there as well, and the Tennessee Tailors for my wife.
Yep.
Dream Rides Tennessee, Facebook or Instagram, and so.
All the fun handles. I'm mostly the shenanigans and the kid end of it, but this guy's got all the fun stuff on the Dream Rides account and TaylorMade Custom Cycles. We're working on getting that social media out there. We'll get these
All right.
projects so everybody can see what's going on.
Definitely. We want to see those projects, Jesse. But
All right.
thanks again, guys, for coming on. And we
Thanks for
really
having us.
appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you around.
Just hang out for 1 second until it says
Sure.
so when Jim hits the end button.